I recently heard that some employers are so desperate for employees that they're going back into their old HR files and applications looking to contact people they previously turned down for employment. Now, this is quite interesting to me because after I lost my job in 2008, I actually put in over 10 to 15,000 job applications. And I have to wonder if any of these employers are going to go back through their lists and contact me for employment. Now, when I take a critical examination of these employers who are going back into their previously rejected lists, it just shows me how tight the job market is and how desperate some employers are to find workers. And when I really take a deeper critical examination of these kinds of employers, some of them I have to believe have some serious issues as related to the way that they're working. Because if you have to go back and dig into your old applications and your files that were from years ago, then there might be a serious problem with your approach to work, and there might be a problem with the way many of these employers are treating people. Because when you have an employer who goes out here and mistreats workers, then they don't have an incentive to stay at that workplace. Moreover, many people are now leaving negative reviews of some of these employers on places like Glassdoor and Yelp, and this is leading to many people not even thinking about applying for work. Because back in the days after 9/11, many employers thought they had all of the leverage because the American economy was in a recession due to 9/11, and many employers thought they had the advantage. And from 2001 to about 2020, we've had over 20 years of employers taking advantage of the job market and then going out of their way to mistreat workers. And now many of those workers have gotten a breather due to the pandemic, and many are rethinking and reevaluating their lives. And because many people are rethinking and reevaluating their lives, this is leading to many employers winding up where with no employees to work for them, because many people are rethinking the way they want to work, and they're realizing that many of these work environments have become extremely hostile, extremely abusive, and many of these bosses and owners have created a codependent relationship where they had all the power and they mistreated people and talked down to them and treated them like children. And this is the main reason why they just can't find any talent to go out here and work. And now they want to go back and dig into their old files, hoping that there's somebody out here who is just as desperate as they are to go out here and want to try to go out here and finally work for a company that saw them as second best. And that's the real insult that many employees or possible employees should feel, because if an employer didn't consider you first many years ago, it's a real slap in the face for many of those same employers to get on the phone and want to call you years later. It's just like in dating, you'll have a guy, he'll be out here with a girl, and then if things don't work out between him and that girl, he's now on the phone looking to call you years later and hoping that you'll be available there for them to go out here and pick up. And the same thing with your girls who have been out here with a guy out here, and then things don't work out between her and him. She's going to go and call you up years later and then hope you're available. Again, that's an insult to that person, because you're saying that, oh, after everything that you've been through, you put your best time and your best years with this one individual, and now that it didn't work out, now you're going to come crawling back to that person and then hope, wish, and pray that they're there for you to go out here and be able to go out here and work with. And again, that is disrespectful to a person in a business relationship. Here you are, you got called for this job 4, 5, 6 years later, and now dude wants to talk about he wants to hire you, and then he wants to hire you back at the rate that he got 4, 5 years later. That's throwing a middle finger up at that potential candidate because, one, you're calling them after you wound up hiring someone else, and then two, you're trying to get them for the pay and benefits that that person applied for 4 or 5 years ago. And that is extremely disrespectful to do to someone, to go out here and contact them 4, 5, 6 years later and then hope that they'll be there. Well, I'm sorry to say this to many employers, but the world has changed and people went on with their lives. So you looking to go out here and try to find somebody from years later, that kind of approach isn't going to work because most of the people you're looking for have moved on and you're now stuck in the same place you were 5 years later. And the reason why you're in the same place you were 5 years later is because your approaches to people are extremely dysfunctional. And this is something that many managers and owners don't understand is you can't continue to treat people like trash because eventually when you treat people like trash, you will reap what you sow and eventually you will be the one getting trashed years later. And that's what's happening to many of these employers who trashed people for over 20 years, people you passed by and passed over who really wanted an opportunity. They have decided that they don't want to be bothered with you, and the reason why your company is struggling is because you just don't know how to treat people. If you follow the Bible and understand, do unto others as you would do the unto you, which is a basic precept that Jesus has established, and to love your neighbor and as yourself, you would go out here and try to treat people the way you would want to be treated. But many employers don't treat people the way they want to be treated, and that's why they can't find anybody because they have mistreated people for so many years. And one of the things that came out of the pandemic is that they went out here and think that they can go back to business as usual, but you cannot change people and then expect them to go back to business as usual. And this is one of the big problems that many employers are just not, it's not registering. The pandemic changed the way people lived, and you cannot ask people to go back to a pre-pandemic life when you mistreated them for over 20 years, and now that they've become aware of the mistreatment, you expect them to go back to the same abusive environment where they had to take all of what you gave them in a codependent relationship. And what your employees are asking for these days is an interdependent relationship. They are asking for equal and fair compensation as related to these jobs, and they're all because these companies are making record profits, and they're asking for their fair share as related to wages, and they're also asking for better work conditions, and they're asking for consistent work hours. These are basic things that people want in a job that they have not received for over 20 years. And it doesn't matter how far you dig into your old files, people are not the same. So you can dig all the way into your files, all the way back when I lost my first job at AmeriCorps, all the way back in 2001. And you're going to find that you can go back to 2001 in those applications, but people's mindsets are in 2021. And in 2021, the American worker wants three things. One, they want a living wage that will allow them to be able to pay their bills and be able to save some money. Two, they want consistent work hours where they can work a routine schedule. where the hours are the same all week, and they also want this overtime to just go away. And three, people want to be in work conditions where they are treated with professionalism and respect. Those are the three basics that people want. Unfortunately, you have so many employers looking to try to use gimmicks to try to appeal to people instead of giving people the very basics that they're looking for. And now that they're out here looking to go out here and look to the people they've blown off, they don't really see how this is them reaping what they sowed, because you blew people like me off for years, you ignored people like me for years, and now you want to go out here and try to talk to people and say, oh, I've got this job right now. Again, that's the same thing that the guy who got dumped does when he gets dumped by a woman, or a woman dumps a guy, especially in the case of a female who dumps a guy. She starts going to look for the old boyfriends or the nice guy who liked her, and now she's looking to go out here and have a work relationship with these guys, and now those guys are saying, no, sorry, I've moved on, I'm going to do other things. And you coming to me 5-10 years later, this is not going to work, and it shouldn't work, because again, the world has changed. And what's really the big problem with many of these companies is they need to realize that they need to change, and they really need to change by listening to people out here like myself who have been long-term unemployed, and listen to what we have to say. Because if you want workers, we're the kind of people you're going to be looking at, and we're the people who want the jobs, but we need to see certain things as related to the job. And things that we want, again, are a living wage that allows us to be able to cover bills in the area we are living in. We want consistent work hours. None of this erratic schedules where on one day I'm working 6 a.m. and the next day I'm working at 10 a.m. start hours, and then I'm going home all sorts of hours, 12, 13-hour days. People are tired of that type of erratic thing because they cannot get consistent rest, and they cannot work on a consistent schedule like that as related to the other aspects of their life. And they also want work conditions where they are treated with dignity and respect. Give us those three things and you will find workers. Unfortunately, many managers are still thinking that they can go back to the 9/11 style workplace, but that those days of that workplace are over, and it doesn't matter if you dig through your files all the way back to 2001. People's minds are in 2021, and in 2021, the American worker wants better than what they've been given over the last 20 years in this toxic and extremely dysfunctional workplace. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.